Hey everyone, getting ready for your exams? You are in the perfect spot. Today we're going to jump right into a really important topic, animal husbandry, and we'll be focusing specifically on cattle farming. So let's get you ready. First up, let's start with a big, real-world question. Think about it. Our population is growing bigger every single day. So how on earth do we make sure there's enough food, especially things like milk, meat, and eggs, for everybody? This is the exact problem that animal husbandry helps us tackle. So what is animal husbandry exactly? Well, you can think of it as the science of looking after farm animals. It's not just about having them around, it's about managing them in a really smart, scientific way. That means focusing on their feeding, their breeding, controlling diseases, and making sure they're treated well. And the big goal behind all of this? To produce more food for all of us. Okay, so here's our game plan for this revision session. We'll start with the basics of what animal husbandry is. Then we'll zoom right into cattle farming. After that, we'll get into the cool science of how we get better breeds for more milk. We'll also look at what makes a good home and a good diet for a cow. And finally, we'll wrap up with how to keep them healthy. Let's do it! All right, first up, what exactly is animal husbandry? Let's get the big picture clear. So, why is this whole thing so important? Well, animal husbandry isn't just about cows. It covers a whole range of animals. We're talking cattle, goats, sheep, poultry, even fish farming. And with more and more people, the demand for good quality milk, eggs, and meat is just shooting up. This scientific approach helps us meet that demand by increasing not just the amount of food, but the quality too. Okay, now let's narrow our focus. We're going to dive into cattle farming and take a closer look at our good old cows and buffaloes. Cattle farming is actually done for two main reasons. On one side, you've got milch animals. Pretty simple, these are the female animals that produce milk. On the other side, you have draft animals. These are the workhorses. Literally, they're used for all sorts of farm labor, like tilling the soil, helping with irrigation, and even pulling carts. Now, in India, when we talk about cattle, we're mainly talking about two species. You have Bos indicus, that's just the scientific name for our common cows, and you have Bos babelis. You guessed it, that's buffaloes. These scientific names are definitely good to remember for your exams. Okay, moving on to our next section. This is where things get really interesting. How do we get more milk and better milk? Let's talk about the science behind creating better breeds to get a higher yield. So let me ask you this. If you're a farmer and you want more milk, what's the one biological secret you need to focus on? What do you think is the key?
And the answer is the lactation period. This is simply the length of time a cow produces milk after she gives birth to a calf. It's common sense, right? The longer this period lasts, the more milk a farmer can get from that one animal. So the main goal is to make this period as long as possible. This brings us to a classic trade-off between different breeds. You have exotic breeds, which are from other countries, like the Jersey cow. They're famous for having super long lactation periods, but the downside is they're not very resistant to our local diseases. Then you have our indigenous breeds, our local heroes, like the Sahiwal. They are incredibly tough and resistant to diseases here, but their lactation periods are shorter. So, what's the brilliant solution? Crossbreeding. This is science in action. You take an exotic breed that gives milk for a long time, and you take a local breed that's really strong against diseases. You crossbreed them, and voila! The hope is to create a new hybrid that has the best of both worlds. It gives a lot of milk and can handle the local conditions. Pretty smart, right? So, now that we have our ideal cow, how do we take care of it? This is where daily management comes in. We need to talk about its home and its food, because proper care and nutrition are absolutely essential. A happy, healthy animal needs a good home, so the shelter has to be well ventilated with lots of fresh air. It needs a roof, of course, to protect it from the hot sun, the rain, and the cold. And cleanliness is key. The place must be kept clean and dry. A really clever design trick is to have a sloping floor. It makes cleaning up and draining waste so much easier. And on top of all that, brushing the animals regularly helps remove dirt and keeps their skin healthy. Okay, let's talk about food. A dairy cow's food needs are split into two main types. First, there's the maintenance requirement. This is the basic diet it needs just to stay healthy and live its life. But then there's the milk-producing requirement. This is the extra nutrient-packed food it needs during that lactation period to produce all that milk. So what kind of food are we talking about? A balanced diet for cattle has two main parts. On one side, you have roughage. Think of this as the stuff that's high in fiber, like grass and hay.
It's super important for proper digestion. On the other side, you have concentrates. These are low in fiber but jam-packed with protein and other nutrients. We're talking about things like grains and pulses. A healthy, productive cow needs a good mix of both. We're almost at the finish line. Our last section is probably the most critical one of all, keeping our cattle healthy. Let's look at how we can prevent and control diseases.
It's simple. A sick animal just can't be productive. Cattle diseases can be broken down into a few categories. You've got external parasites. These live on the outside, on the skin, and cause skin diseases. Then you have internal parasites, like worms and flukes, that get inside and can damage the stomach, intestines, and liver. And finally, you have the big ones, infectious agents, like bacteria and viruses, that can cause serious diseases affecting the entire body.
So, how do we stop the animals from getting sick? Well, it all comes back to good management. Vaccinations are a must to protect them from the really bad viral and bacterial diseases. And like we've already talked about, a clean shelter and good, clean food and water are non-negotiable. Regular vet checkups can catch any problems early, and of course, you've got to control those pesky external pests. In the end, it all boils down to this one powerful idea. Prevention is always better than cure, because a healthy animal is a productive animal. That's really the heart of good animal husbandry. And I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. We've seen how science, like crossbreeding, helps us a lot. As we get even better and more powerful with this science, what do you think our next big responsibility is? How should we care for the very animals that sustain us? Something to think about.